All right. Good evening. The hour snuck up on me, but I'm here. I've got a quorum, and I'm ready to call this meeting to order. So, can I get a motion to adopt this agenda as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion to adopt the agenda and a second from Mr. Carter. All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. We've adopted the agenda. I'm going to move right into public comments. We're going to do both a public hearing tonight on the millage rate, which will allow time for public comments, as well as this moment, if anybody would like to make public comments. Is there anybody here who would like to make public comments? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments portion of the meeting, and we will move right into governing body. Item A1 is an intergovernmental agreement with Carroll County regarding... Mr.
She took my copy and went away with it.
Okay, we'll get it. So item A1 is intergovernmental agreement with Carroll County regarding the East Side TAD. I am, let me make sure everybody has a copy here. All right, and so this is I'm going to let Tom present this, or David, actually a combination. All right, David. I'm going to ask David to present this here, and then I'll ask you, I'll have some discussion time with council, and then I'm going to ask you to formulate a motion.
This is the latest iteration of the proposed agreement between Carroll County and the city of Villa Rica as it relates to the East Side TAD district. This has gone through numerous revisions based on negotiations that have been undertaken between representatives of the city and representatives of the Carroll County Board of Commissioners. I think the terms of it are fairly self-explanatory, but if anybody's got any questions, we can go over them to discuss them. But the county has not approved this proposed draft yet, but the action that you will be taking is to approve it on the city's part, to send it to the county, asking them to approve it also to make it a binding agreement.
Okay. All right, council, you all are pretty well aware of the circumstances surrounding this TAD and the IGA agreement and the back and forth that has occurred, and I think good faith between the county and between the city. You all did not, however, get a final copy until yesterday about 2 o'clock. I'm hoping that you've had a chance to go through it, and first I'll ask if you have any questions about any of the items or anything you want to direct to Tom or to David in terms of clarifying some of this language as it relates to this IGA. Anyone? Okay, this has been through a lot, or did you? Okay. We've been back and forth. We do believe that this is a final version that takes into consideration every proposition that the county has made and the city has been able to meet in good faith all of these requirements. So we are hoping that we can get this over to the county and that they will subsequently vote on it and hopefully approve it. If they do, we will then be able to move on to the school board and seek negotiations with them that will begin to bind all three of us into this partnership for this development. David, do you?
Yeah, I have a motion written out here. The motion would be I move to approve the proposed agreement between the city of Villa Rica and Carroll County supporting the proposed East Side TAD. Further move to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the document at the appropriate time.
All right.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mr. Carter will make that motion. Ms. Marchman will second that motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you all very much. We're going to get this over to the county as soon as we can. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Yes, ma'am. It is for public comment, but you can do it during the public hearing. That'd be fine, whoever wants to do it. Okay, let me bring up our finance director, Jennifer Hallman. We're going to move into a public hearing this will be public hearing number 2 for the millage rate. And then there will be time for public comments after we do this part. Go ahead, Jennifer.
All right, good evening. We'll begin talking about what's included in the digest. Real property, which is your agricultural, commercial, industrial, residential, utility, and conservation, plus your personal property with the same categories, plus your motor vehicles, mobile homes, timber, heavy-duty equipment. All of those combined equal your gross digest. You subtract out any and all exemptions, and that becomes your net digest. The next slide just shows, it's a lot of numbers, but this is one of the required ads that was in both the Douglas County Sentinel and the Times-Georgian. It's the public notice with the current 2022 tax digest and 5-year history of levy. And it lets the public know when the millage rate will be set, and as you can see here, it's going to be set at a special called council meeting next Tuesday, August the 30th at 6 p.m. Like I mentioned this morning, and I think it's good to mention this evening, the last column at the very bottom, the net taxes percentage increase is 19.3%. That is the total amount of tax revenue, additional tax revenue that we'll receive if the millage is approved as recommended, compared to 2021. That is not the amount of the tax increase on tax bills. We'll go over how that calculation is in a moment. The 19.3% is the increase in tax revenue of both new growth and inflationary growth. So our 2022 gross digest is just over $1 billion. 51% of that is residential, almost 27% is industrial, 20% is commercial, and then we have a small 1.8% is other, and that's your utility, motor vehicles, agriculture, conservation, I can never get that word right, mobile home, timber, and heavy equipment. As you know, Villa Rica is 27% is industrial, 20% is commercial.
It's working.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Man, that was a pretty voice. Are we ready? Okay. As you know, Villa Rica is in 2 different counties, Douglas County and Carroll County. So this is how Douglas County's portion of Villa Rica changed. You can see that Villa Rica's net digest is 41% in Douglas County. And we had a 19.49% increase in commercial, a 34% increase in industrial, 29.84% in residential, a small decline in other, with their gross digest increasing 28.8%, exemptions increasing 31.8%, with a total digest change in on the Douglas County side of 28.26% in your net digest. 59% of Villa Rica's digest is in Carroll County, and the same categories are compared as far as commercial had a 4% change, industrial had a 20% change, as well as residential. Other category had a 17% change. Your gross digest on the Carroll County side increased by 15.74%. Our exemptions increased by just under 30%, so our total net digest on the Carroll County side had a change of 13.77%. This is taking those 2 previous slides, putting them together, and you can see how Villa Rica's total digest ended up changing with a total change of 19.3%. There are 2 types of growth in the digest, and we'll kind of talk about that on the next slide, but here are the percentages. In Douglas County, the inflationary change on Villa Rica's digest was 11.62%. Carroll County's was 7.54%. So our total digest had an inflationary growth of 9.1%. New growth was 16.64% in Douglas County, 6.23% in Carroll County, for a total in Villa Rica of 10.2%. And then again, that is where you see the 19.3. I keep honing that in because again, there's misconceptions about what the increase in the taxes are on for citizens. Again, the types of growth in the digest, you have your reassessment inflationary growth. That's due to reassessments of property, and that's where we have to calculate a rollback millage rate. You add the new growth or the other changes in the digest, which is due to new or improved property, and that is the total digest growth or the total changes in the digest from 2021 to 2022. You can see here that the 9.1% of inflationary growth generates for Villa Rica $413,437. The new growth is 10.2%, and that would generate $463,512. And the value of one meal in 2021 was $727,000, and in 2022 it is $867,000. Again, state law requires that we have the calculation of a rollback millage rate to offset any of the inflationary increases in the digest. You take that inflationary growth, which is for Villa Rica is a little over $66 million. You divide that by the 2022 net digest of $867 million, and you multiply that by your prior year's millage rate, which is 6.25, to come up with a rollback millage equivalent. And then you take that millage equivalent and deduct it or reduce your your prior year's millage rate, and that is how you come up with your 2022 millage rollback millage rate. Anything above that millage rate of 5.773 is considered a tax increase according to state law, even though we are recommending that you maintain the same millage rate of 6.25 as the same millage rate as it was last year. The recommendation is to not roll back, to maintain it at the 6.25 versus the 5.773. That is the 8.26% increase. And again, it would generate $413,000 in revenue. The millage rate schedule, due to state requirements, this is considered a tax increase, so we're in the process of having 3 public hearings. We had one this morning at 11, having one now, and then we'll have one next Tuesday, August the 30th at 6 p.m., and then following that would be the adoption of the millage rate. Do you have any questions?
All right. We went through this earlier today. Thank you. You did a good job presenting that. Council, does anyone have any questions for Jennifer at this stage? Okay, if not, I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. If there's anybody here who would like to speak, please come up to the podium. We will give you 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record, and just come on up here and just adjust that mic if you need to. So
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nancy Mims, 17 Hickory Trail, Villa Rica, Georgia. As most of you know, I'm a retired college professor. Most of us as retired college professors do not have teacher retirement. I lost in 9/11 and the bubble at least 53% of my income. My husband and I are living on Social Security. If you have read the newspaper this morning or watched the stock market for the last weekend, you will see that we have all fallen considerably. The federal government right now is still contemplating whether or not they're going to raise the interest rates on all of us. We all have had increases in all of our utilities. I have no objections to the increase in my house. We've been here 32 years in the same house. I've been here longer than 32 years, but in my house for 32 years. And I'm kind of pleased the fact that the valuation of it has gone up. And that's fine. But I do think that with the volatile market, with the problem that we have, not problem, but with all of the government things going on right now between now and the end of the year, with elections and what have you, that we really need to think a lot about raising taxes for a lot of us who are retired, who are living on Social Security, and who love Villa Rica, we understand you need money, but to keep it the same or put it back a little bit would certainly be a big help for those of us who are living on Social Security, and that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Marshall Smith, 9636 Coastal Point Drive, Villa Rica. 3 minutes doesn't, it seems like an awful short time to speak, but I'm gonna get started. I think everybody in here right now, city council, mayor, people are gonna be accountable for this. Should stop and think. I think it's time that the citizens of Villa Rica got a break. Inflation's killing them. Grocery prices are killing them. Gasoline's killing them. Everything that you've got to do is cost more. Everything. I think they need a break. I'm one of them, and I say I need a break. You talk about keeping this at 6.25, that's a joke. Why? You got a windfall. Every price you've got on here, these houses were adjusted at an inflated price. An inflated price. So you're going to think about this again in 24. You got to go through the same thing. Is that not correct?
We got to go every year.
All right. So what's the rush on keeping it at 6.25 for inflated prices? We're going to be again, it's going to cost us something by the city of Villa Rica. Nobody represents the city of Villa Rica other than you people sitting in these chairs right here. And I don't mind telling you, I see very little. I see a lot that needs to be done in Villa Rica, and I understand that. I see a lot that doesn't need to be done in Villa Rica they're still planning on. Somebody's got to be accountable. Somebody's got to speak up for the people, the citizens of Villa Rica. They should have a voice. Now, most of the people I know couldn't make it because they're trying to get home from work at 6 o'clock. I don't know how full you were at 10 o'clock this morning, but that seems to be unreasonable for anybody working, and the vast majority of the people in Villa Rica do go to work. When you have this next public meeting, public input is going to be at 6 o'clock again, and you're going to have about the same basic turnout that you have right here. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right to continue with an inflated 6.25 millage rate. I don't know where that came from. We're on a flowback system. We can't even take it back to 5.777, which the law says is perfectly fine, but using your math, you can't do that. You want 6.25. Somebody has got to and will look out for the citizens of Villa Rica. They will. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall. Next. Okay.
Hello, Mayor,
Yellow.
Council. Janet Heilman, 44 Maple Valley Drive, Villa Rica. I'm probably not going to add anything new to what's just been said, but I agree with everyone. I mean, last year, the millage rate was raised, and we were in the middle of a pandemic still, and and then we've had all this inflation, and it really is hurting the people. I would like to see a partial rollback or something done, or maybe reworking the budget a little bit so that you can move some dollars. But I just have to echo the comments of the previous two speakers. I'm against the having the millage rate as it is proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
My name is Carrie Ann Burnett Astry, and my address is 9735 Tideview Court. I am the wife of the fallen Sergeant Jean Harold Astry, and I am here to say to all of you, leadership of this town, how disappointed I am in every single one of you. I've lived here for 10 years, and my husband has lived here and worked here. And apart from Ms. Marchman, who was at our service that I just found out about, no one from this leadership team has reached out to me directly or indirectly. And I am so disappointed in you, all of you, not from the mayor, the city council, or the chief of police who my husband had worked for. Apart from Miss Dominique Conte, who came to the funeral, and she has been in touch with me before and after and everything. That woman is a true leader. I'm going to let y'all know. Mr. Danny Carter, I live in your ward. And I guess my little black family was just not good enough for you to show up at my door to say, I am sorry for your loss. I just want you to know that. And let us talk about chief of police that my husband worked for, that he blacklisted after he left the department, where my family suffered for 3 years because of what he did. You want to know why he was blacklisted? Because he got a grant of $400,000 for the department when he worked for them, and he tried to use that money to do something else, and my husband spoke up. He didn't like that. You know what else he did to him? When he showed up for work one evening, he told him to go and play in a charity match that my husband was not willing to do or had any idea about. He went, he played, he got injured, he was out of work for almost a year, having to do surgery after surgery, and when he tried to get workers' comp, that chief of police, Mansour, whatever his name is, however you pronounce it, told him that he's not eligible for it because of how he got injured. Never mind, he fought and he won, he got it. But I just want you to know, all of you who are leaders, every single one of you, the stone that the builder refuses will always end up being the head cornerstone. All of your time are limited on this seat. And just like the walls of Jericho fell, your reign is coming to an end. That's it.
All right. Anybody else want to speak in public comments? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to come back to council. Council, do you have any questions for Jennifer? Any comments?
Comment.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
And I'll just say I'm sorry for this citizen's loss. I am not familiar with the situation, so I can't respond to it at this time. But I will say this in regards to the millage rate. We're not going to make the decision until August 30th, but just a few things to consider when we do this. The millage rate was raised during the pandemic. It was 2020. We didn't know what to expect, right? There were different reasons given for doing that. Couple of us were very reticent to do that because so many people were out of work and everything else, and that's when it went to the 6.25. And that our situation's a little bit like a family that buys an old house. There's a lot to be done on an old house, and you can't do it all at once, so you have to kind of spread it out, do it incrementally. And if you did try to do it all at once, you would bankrupt whoever, yourself or whoever you're getting the money from, because it's too massive of a project. And so that's the way we've taken on Villa Rica, is trying to do it, you know, step at a time with fixing things, water, sewer, and we've made a lot of progress. But I'll also mention that you guys, a number of you already stated the situation we're in with inflation and everything else. But what you need to also understand is that governments, despite the fact that I see things on that budget that I go, I wish we could do that, you know, or it looks like we really need to do that. But there'll never be enough money. I'll just tell you now, I've watched government for, well, I'm 61, but I haven't watched it for that many years. But I've watched it for a lot of years, both on the local level, the state, the federal, and the education sector. There will never be enough money. However, during the pandemic, we received quite a bit of federal money. Came to the states, came to the counties, came to the cities. Massive amounts, I would say, to the school system in comparison to the other entities. And the first CARES funding we got under the Trump administration, because they paid for our first responders, in our case it would be, I believe it was 6 months of pay for our police officers. We don't do our own fire. It not only covered all our losses in any of the other areas of the government, because we already had funded that. We already funded what needed to be paid for the police officers in our budget. So that additional money that came covered any losses we had, and with about $200,000 above that. Okay, so losses, recreation, Pine Mountain Museum, things like that. And the tax dollars continued to come in very well during the pandemic. Some of us were redoing our kitchens, we were cleaning the garage, buying shelving from the big box stores that were open. So tax dollars still came in a lot better than we expected. And remember that we have a number of sources that we get tax dollars. I'm sorry, I should have said sales tax dollars. And then lastly, and this is kind of the kicker for it, is under the Biden administration, the American Rescue Plan funds went out. And we benefited at the city level to the tune of $6 million. $3 million 2 years ago, year before last, and then this year we're in now, the second $3 million. Now, where would we be, because that wasn't expected money, where would we be if we didn't have that $6 million? We'd be where we were going to be without the $6 million that we normally wouldn't get, and we would have functioned based on that. Well, we've gotten that other money plus the $6 million, and it's still not enough because there's so much to do, and there's only so much you can put on the back of the citizens. So I don't want us to forget that we've done great with sales tax, and we've had this other money that doesn't grow on trees. It falls from the sky because they can print it up in Washington. Somebody's going to pay for it someday. But we were the benefactor of that, and it still isn't enough because it never will be enough. And I think we just have to be careful especially during these times of inflation, who we charge more, who we take more money from. All of us. I'm a taxpayer. And there's things in that budget I'd like to see happen that are getting cut.
All right, anybody else? Okay. All right, let me look at I want to echo a number of the things that you talked about, and I want to also say that I sympathize with everyone in their situation. And what we try to do here, we are also citizens of this city. I also pay property taxes. And it's very difficult to look at the challenges that we face every day here at the city and still ask yourself, what more can you do? So oftentimes when I look at these and we start to look at, we do this every year. Every year we have to look at this millage rate, and every year we're dealing with this rollback number. But one of the things that I try to look at is, how does this affect individual parcels? How does it affect the actual homeowner, the taxpayer individually? Because as you all can see from the presentation, some of this is industrial money, some of this is commercial money, a lot of it is residential. The majority of it is residential. So what we're looking at, what I try to take a look at, is how does it impact each individual taxpayer, each homeowner? And so that's what we'll continue to take into account. That's not lost on any of us up here. We live it just like everybody at home and everybody in this room. We pay these taxes too. So what we do here applies to all of us. And I think we should all keep that in mind as we do this. All right, is there any other comments from anybody? All right, Tom or David, do you have anything to add? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Carter to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. McPherson.